Brandon, officially welcome to the Wealth Juice Podcast. We're excited to have you on the show. We've been going back and forth for a little while now. I finally got this thing settled up. So you are into land development, and you teach people how to do land development. And I really want to dive into this in detail today because I think it's such a powerful real estate tool, or just like one of the ways that you can make money, in the real estate game, or real estate adjacent. So for people that don't know you, let's get into your background, who you are, like how you got into this space. I'd love to just hear, about how you do what you do.
Yeah. First, thanks for having me. It's awesome to be on the show. Yeah. If you told me 10 years ago that we would be inventing these new housing communities, I'd look at you like you had 10 heads, because I don't have some story about where I worked in corporate for decades and I got sick and tired and I had some dream and I, had to quit. Like that. That is not me at all. I'm probably what you call an accidental entrepreneur. I had no plans to be an entrepreneur. In fact, my dream job was medical device sales. Like that's what I wanted to do. It took me years to break into that industry. My boss, who I work with, he was my mentor. He's like the guy that gave me the shot, and I finally got my dream job. So he was like a father figure to me, right? He was a mentor, and I love what I did. I was wearing scrubs every single day. I thought I was the coolest kid on the block, young guy in his early 20s. I was rubbing shoulders with orthopedic surgeons. I was getting to teach hospital staff how to use my product. And, my biggest thing for me was I was very intrinsically satisfied. The products I was selling, I actually believed in. So that was really cool. I really enjoyed what I was selling. And then one Friday afternoon, my boss says, "Hey, come meet me at Starbucks." And I was pumped to go and meet him because I was having a phenomenal day as a sales rep. That day where you're like, "Hey, I can't wait to tell him about my boss, how much money I made him in the sales." And so I go meet him over at Starbucks. Like I remember it like it was yesterday. You could smell the coffee. The sun was shining. I just got off work. I was excited. And before I could tell him how much money I made that day, he fires me. And just like that, my cozy corporate medical device sales career was over. And I remember that day, all I could think about was one thing, which was, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? I was like, dude, I got the Rookie of the Year Sales Award. Like, I love my job. Like, what did I do wrong? And I learned a very important lesson that day, which was that nobody was going to look out for my financial well-being but me. Doesn't matter how loyal you are to a company, how many decades you put together, you're just one merger, one restructuring, one economic event from losing your job. And so that's what set me on my entrepreneur journey. And, at first I was like, what the heck should I do? So I started a course on how to break in the medical device sales. I thought, I had a lot of people reach out to me asking me how I did it. Maybe I can teach it. That failed. I was really into the online motivational stuff. I said, you know what? Let me write an online motivational blog. That flopped. I said, you know what? What about life coaching? I really like Tony Robbins. I'm all into his stuff. I'll be a life coach like him. And Corey, you're not going to want to believe this, but not many people want to take life coaching advice from a 26-year-old. So
I do believe that.
That failed. That failed miserably. But then I discovered this magic vehicle, as you know, and you teach about, called real estate. And at first I made all the mistakes. I sold all my retirement accounts to buy my first investment property. If you're listening to this, don't do that. Oh my gosh, don't do that. I paid the penalties and everything. I didn't even know I could use my retirement account to buy real estate. I thought I had to sell it and cash out. Stupid. Don't do that. But ended up doing over 186 transactions, started flipping about 30, 40 houses a year, then started building about 20, 30 houses per year, started a capital raising fund, created our own general contracting business, and just started scaling the number of homes that we were building. And one day we got a knock on the door from a big national home builder. It said, "Hey, we really like your development. Like, we want to buy it." And we said, "Get lost. It's not for sale." And then they sent us a contract with a purchase price. And we said, "Well, we really want to buy it." And my partner and I looked at each other, looked at the contract, looked at each other, looked at the contract, and said, "You can have it. It is for sale. And do you want the one across the street? Because we'll develop and we'll sell that one to you too." So, I didn't just transfer directly into from medical device sales to land development. Like, there was a natural progression. And I'm here to say, the reason I tell you this story is you can do it too. You don't have to have a background working with a development company or working with I don't know, big national home builder or whatever to do these giant projects. Like, you can do it too. I had no background in it whatsoever. If you've got a real estate background and you've got experience, you're a full-time real estate entrepreneur, you have the ability to do development. So I tell that story because you can do it. You don't have to be, born into a family that does development.
I love the story. First of all, I think it's awesome, and I thank you for being candid and just like telling all the ins and outs of it. But it's a wake up call for people that are listening that are like, "Wait, I'm doing really good at my sales job, or how could they possibly fire me? Like, you just said rookie of the year, whatever it was, or like sales rep of the year. I forget what you said, but like, I'm curious on I want to get back into the story real quick, and then we'll get into more of the land stuff. Like, what did they tell you that it was that you like? Why were you fired? Was it a merger and acquisition? Like, what was the reasoning? Because to me, it's like you think you're actually safer in corporate, but in my opinion, after being in the not really corporate, but just like the job force versus an entrepreneur, I think you're much safer as an entrepreneur. It just depends on how your brain is wired. So like it depends also how you look at safety too. So that's
Yeah.
part of it. But I'm curious. I'm curious what their story was on that
Yeah,
because
entrepreneurs
obviously it was
definitely not
shocking.
cut out for everybody. I will say that. Well, he said, Brandon, I no longer think that you are a fit for us, and I hope you learned something from this. So, for whatever reason, he decided, I was no longer a fit for the company, and maybe if I'm being honest, maybe I wasn't like the best medical device salesperson. I'd gotten the Rookie of the Year sales award. 6 months later, my sales weren't great, but it was the end of the year, right? The best part of the year is in the December when everyone's trying to catch up their deductibles and stuff. So, I don't know the real reason, but he told me that I was no longer a fit for the company, and believe me, it broke my heart because this guy was like a father figure to me, right? Like, this was my mentor. And, hearing him say that, I kind of felt like I was being abandoned. And, if for anybody who's lost a job before, or not a job, but like a career dream job, like what you think you're going to spend the rest of your life doing, when that happens, you're not just losing a job, you're losing your sense of identity. And so, yeah, it was a complete mental shift for me.
I think some of the things that people can take away from something like this is like it's sim when you get into a career, you do something for 5 years or 10 years. I think a lot of people, you mentioned this identity, they think, well, how can I possibly do something else? Like, how could I change my brain chemistry or like what I'm focused on to do something else? And there are so many people that actually would be so much better if they did something else. You kind of stay in the safety zone of doing the thing that you're good at, but you're not actually pushing yourself to get better. And if you did change the field or you did change your mindset or you want to try something else, it might actually be significantly better, but people get stuck in their own little race of like, well, I got this, I'm good. I finally took me this long to get here, but then sometimes corporate wakes you up, and it's not your choice. So
Yeah.
I want to get
Comfort
into
too. Comfort is a
yeah,
big part of it. People get way too comfortable, like you were talking about. And like that is the enemy of growth. Comfort is the enemy of growth.
yeah, yeah. I love it. I mean, I totally agree. So let's talk about the land. You got into a couple other things, didn't really work out, but you just kept pushing forward, and you're like, okay, I need to figure out what does work. Talk to me about like one of the first land deals that you did that made you realize, okay, no, this is the thing that I'm going to continue to do. Like maybe I know there had to have been one deal or a moment where you're like, all right, I see the vision.
Yeah, so we had like when we had transitioned from flipping houses to building houses, the writing was on the wall. We were flipping back when we were first flipping, 8, 9 years ago. It was great. We were flipping $250,000 houses, making like 35, 40 grand a house. Fast forward a few years, and the saturation in the market, we were flipping $420,000 houses and making like $30,000 a house. So the margins got squeezed, and we had all of our key performance indicators really nailed in. Like when we first started, we were paying $3,300 a contract. Towards the end of it, it was $6,600 a contract. It was taking me 5, 6 appointments to get a contract. It was taking me like 11 or 12 appointments later on to get a contract. So everything was just getting squeezed in the house flipping business. So we had transferred over to doing new construction. So the first light bulb moment for new construction was we had a house that had fire damage on the second floor. First floor was fine, second floor was crispy. And we were like, we've done these full gut rehabs where we just rip it all the way down to the skeleton, like the framing's left and done it. So this can't be that much different. And we can buy the house for less than what the land's worth. So like we could scrape the house, sell the land, and make money. So like this has to be a deal. The foundation and the first floor is fine. We rebuilt that house and made 3 times as much money as we did on one of our flips. And we said, why are we flipping houses? So that was the first light bulb moment. And, you know, once you do some of these full gut rehabs, new construction is actually easier than that. So then it became chasing all of these onesie twosie new construction projects that are spread out all over the place. And we're like, wouldn't it be easier if we could just build all these homes on the same piece of land, show up to the same 2 or 3 areas? That's what we need to do. And so that was the light bulb moment. We realized it took just as much time and effort to talk to one person who had one plot of land that you could build 1 or 2 homes on, as it is to talk to somebody who has a plot of land that you can build 30, 40, 50 homes on. Now, a little bit more time to get the approval to do all that, but we're like, why? Like, how much time and effort does it take to produce 50 new builds individually versus how much time and effort does it take to produce one deal that you can put 50 new builds on? And it turns out it's a lot easier to do that. And guess what? There's so much less competition going after the bigger deals. It's saturated doing the smaller stuff because there's too many people doing it. And so people think the bar is set really high. And to a certain degree, like, you know, there is. Like, I don't recommend people do land entitlement or development if this is your first real estate deal. Like that, this is not that. Don't do that. You know, go buy some rental properties or, you know, flip some houses. But for full-time real estate entrepreneurs that are, you know, builders that are doing onesie twosie stuff that want to grow and scale, or you're land flipping and you maybe have done some minor subdivides and you're ready to do the big, you know, 7-figure payday projects, this is a great add-on to your business. Because I'm also not telling people, like, real estate's kind of known for this thing where people get this shiny object syndrome, and it's like, oh, you know, self-storage is the way, or, you know, multifamily is the way, or no, you know, house flipping is the way. That's not it at all. You know, you want to build a stable cash flowing business. And once you have something that's producing some kind of income, if you want to add like the generational wealth hits, because it's tough to build generational wealth with, you know, a machine that you got to keep feeding, that it creates cash flow, but you got to feed the machine to keep it going. These deals are a great add-on to somebody's real estate business where you can get those 7-figure hits once a year to really build income. So that was my aha moment. It was figuring out that how much time and effort does it take to produce 50 individual new builds versus one piece of land that I can do 50 new builds on.
Whether you're a new or experienced landlord, one of the biggest hiccups that people run into that prevents them from scaling their portfolio is lack of organization. And most people think that they're going to be fixing toilets at 2 a.m. because of that lack of organization. They're going to be getting calls from tenants, and tenants are going to destroy their house. One of the things that fixes that completely is easy landlord forms. When you're self-managing property, staying organized is one of the most important things that will allow you to scale. Easy Landlord Forms has tenant screening services, state-specific lease agreements, online rent payment systems, and over 500 landlord forms. So you can keep everything in one hub, scale your rental portfolio with ease, and most importantly, make landlording and real estate investing as passive as it can possibly be. So go to easylandlordforms.com and you can use the code WealthJuice, which will give you 20% off any order. Very cool. So I'll tell you what, by having a podcast like this, probably the biggest challenge that has come from it is exactly what you're saying. When I hear stories like you, or hear stories with self-storage, or hear stories of somebody doing all this, to not be like, oh, let me drop what I'm doing and go find greener pastures, because there are so many ways to make money. I think you're going to find people that are listening to this that might be really aligned, that you're speaking directly to, that need this, 7-figure hit, right? So like, who wouldn't want that? So talk to me about your business model. And I know you teach people how to do this now, but maybe if you could walk me through a specific deal. And I realize this as we're chatting is, you're not flipping the land. You are buying the land and then you are building. And is your exit strategy typically to sell to an end user retail who's going to live in this property? And like, maybe just take us through that process. I'd love to hear how that typically goes.
Yeah, so I'll simplify it, and then I'll give you a deal that you can actually go. If y'all want to see this deal, you can go to learnlanddevelopment.com. We have a free course on how to get started in this. I show you some of our deals. It's just click the Land Development 101 button below the video, and you can go grab it for free. But this is how we simplify it. Phase 1, go find the right type of land. So we teach how to do that. You can find that in the course. Once you have a piece of land under contract, then you get what's called a concept plan done. This concept plan is just a sketch of what the community might look like a bird's eye, two-dimensional on paper. You're staring at a bunch of rooftops on a piece of paper on what is possible with this land. And you will consult a civil engineer to do that. So just go find a local civil engineer, say, hey, I need to get a concept plan for this done, and take that concept plan. You're going to bring it to the city. If you're in a major metropolis area like downtown, Nashville, Tennessee, you're going to go to the local council person who's over that address. Your council person is the one that decides and makes the decisions. If it's in a suburb, then you're probably going to go to the planning director. He's the liaison between the council members that vote and the developers that are asking for feedback on the communities. And when you bring the city that concept plan and you say, hey, I got this thing. Are you excited about it? Do you want this? And if they say, yes, we're excited about it, like, yeah, 100% you should move forward with this, then we take that concept plan to our list of buyers. In our business, we work with national home builders, so like Lennar, D.R. Horton, those kind of guys. And we say, hey, look at what I got. I got a concept plan that the city's excited about. Will you buy this from me if I get it approved? And they go, heck yeah, here's a contract and a deposit. Go knock yourself silly. And once we have that, that's our permission to start taking the deal through. And I don't spend a whole ton of money during the due diligence period. My earnest money's not going hard. I got very little risk at this point. A concept plan is my risk before I decide to start taking it through. So that's the structure of it. That before we do anything, do not pass go, do not collect $200 until you have done that. Now, once that's done, we got two different options that we can choose from. Option one is we have a contract from a builder. We can take it through entitlements. It's already pre-sold by the time. So as soon as we get it approved for the community, the builder will buy it or the developer will buy it. So that's called land entitlement. That's the first phase of development. So you don't have to do any construction whatsoever. When you take a piece of farmland and you force appreciate it and you put 100 homes on it, it is worth a lot more money. So just getting it approved for something different force appreciates the value. So that's phase one. And then phase two is the actual land development portion. So this is where you actually are going to go put the roads, the sewer, the infrastructure. You're basically creating a neighborhood with no homes. So we do that as well. Here's an example. So we put a 44 townhome unit project under contract for $900,000. It took us a year to get it approved. And we had it pre-sold for a little over $1.6 million. Cost us about $78,000 in engineering fees to get it through. So we had, you need a little bit of money to do this, or you need to be able to raise money from investors to be able to do that. But, $70,000 to be able to control a 44 unit development is not a lot of money. That was a pretty affordable engineering fee. It can get a little bit more expensive. So that's why I say you don't have to have millions of dollars. You don't have to be able to be born in development. Like, there's consultants that you can actually pay that'll take these things through for you that used to work for the city or an old engineering firm, and now they'll actually liaison and take it all the through. So that was an example of a deal that we did. It was 43 units, I think is what the final say was. And we bought it for $900,000. We put about $80,000 into it and sold it for a little over 1.6.
Okay, so I'm curious. This is great. And then when you sold it to the builder. You're not doing any of the construction, right? So
Correct.
that's that project, right?
Yep.
So talk me through this scenario. In my head, I'm thinking like, is there financing options on the 900 up front, or do you need to pay cash for that? And then you could, in theory, it's like kind of like buying a property and raising money for the rehab, which would be the engineering fees. Pay a private money lender $80,000 and pay them 12%, and you pay it over a year, and then you pay them back once you sell. But I could just be throwing this out into no man's land. Tell me about that process. Are you raising the 900? Do you need to buy it in cash? Like, what does that look like? So that, I'm curious on how that works. Is it kind of like a syndication? Is it a short-term loan? Like, what's your process?
Rule number one is never buy any land until you have the approval. We put it under contract with the option to purchase once we get the approvals. So we've got these things locked up for as long as it takes us to get that approval. So we're not introducing any investor capital until we get to the preliminary plat approval. Once we have a preliminary plat approval, that's when the city has stamped it saying, like, this is approved, this community is happening. But before we allow you to do construction, we need to see your civil drawings. So just like you have a lot that you can build a home on, the city's like, yeah, you can build a home on this lot. They're not going to give you a building permit until they see the architectural plans of the home, right? Because the permitting department wants to make sure that the windows are big enough for a firefighter to get in and rescue somebody. They want to make sure the home's not too close to the power line. They need to make sure it's safe. So the civil drawings are like architectural plans. A builder can't build a home without seeing the architectural plans. A developer can't develop the land without the civil drawings. That's how deep is the sewer going to go? Where's the water line going to go? What's the slope of the roads? Where's the storm water going to drain? All that kind of stuff. And so we will raise capital after we get it from the preliminary plat approval stage. That's when things get expensive. Your engineering fees are, they're costly, right? If you're going to do a 100-home project, you might spend $200,000 in civil engineering fees, right? But you go and you raise that money from investors, because all I'm doing is I'm saying, hey, I have an approved project. I have an end buyer who's ready to buy it. Here's their deposit. Here's the contract. Do you recognize D.R. Horton and Lennar? Probably. And I just need this money, Mr. Investor, to get it to the approval stage. So that's how we do it. We put it on our contract with an option. We control the land through the contracts.
Got it. Okay, very cool. Is the structure of this typically like one of the things that I'm curious about, because it seems like you could be in and out of this in not a short period of time, but like 1 to 2 years. Is the structure like essentially private or hard money in that scenario? Like, when you're raising capital from investors, you're not necessarily, or are you paying them a waterfall along the way during the hold period of this project? Like, how does that work? Because you're not generating income from like a multifamily, right? You're
Right.
exiting. And so is it more of like 12-month hold period, pay back the interest, like, or maybe it varies? I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah, these projects typically take 18 months or less. 18 months is kind of a worst case scenario. They're usually around 15 months, 12 to 15 months. But it's an accrual, so we don't pay monthly. Like, our whole thing, in order for you to scale your real estate business, you can't scale using hard money. I'm sorry. I used to flip houses. I was using hard money when I got started. Hard money is great, by the way, for getting started, because they'll prevent you from making a bad deal. Highly recommend if you're just getting started and you're flipping houses or doing rentals. Like, hard money's great. They're a good resource. But as you grow and scale and you have a better handle of what you're doing, you need to go and raise outside capital from investors. And believe me, there's a lot of capital sitting in a bank account earning 0.02% interest that would love to be in your real estate deal. So there's too much money, not enough deals. So if you got a deal, you can find the money.
Totally. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the deal is the hardest part, and that's why, when you go to investors who might not even be investors yet, they invest in a 401k, and I guess you could consider that an investor, but like people that have money sitting on the sidelines, a lot of people get nervous about bringing opportunities to investors. One, you should be nervous because you don't want to lose anyone else's money. That's point blank the first thing. But the second thing is, like, if you get experience, you're bringing these people a real opportunity to make significantly more than they could have it be made in a savings account. So like, think about it. Like, if you find the deal, the money will be there. You just need to know who to talk to and how to pitch it. And I think that's great advice. I want to get into your business, and is like, I know you're in Tennessee. Are all of these deals that you're finding in your local market? Do you only stay regional, local? Do you go into different states around you? Like, how does that work, and how do you decide, where your next deal could potentially be?
Yeah, so that we do partnerships with people who are outside of our local market. We got a couple of those going, but the majority of what we do is in and around Nashville, Tennessee, because that's where my partner and I both live, and that's what we call home. And it's just easier for us to, and we understand the markets, and we have relationships with a lot of the local municipalities and relationships with sellers that have a lot of land. The money is made in the follow up. If you're in real estate, you're in real estate business, the money is always made in the follow-up when it comes to sales. So it's a relationship type of game. So most of what we do is right here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. So maybe take me through the other side of this where you are actually developing? Like it seems like you have two options, or do you focus mainly on what you just talked about, or is there a part of your business where you're going upright and you're building as well? Is that
We do
play a
both.
factor?
We do all
Yeah.
three phases. We do the entitlement stage where we take a piece of paper and we just get it approved for development and sell it. We have the development where we're developing ready to build lots and selling them to builders. I'm selling 74 lots to a big national builder right now, and we also build new homes. So at each stage, you force appreciate the value of the land. Obviously, the most value that gets created is when you take it all the way through and you build the home, right? Like that's when you create the most value, but you're creating value along the way. And what I like about it is we're not pigeonholed into one specific exit. So if something comes around, we have multiple ways to force appreciate the value, which is really important. So we do all three. The last 2.5 years, was it 3 years now? Since 2022, we sold the last bit of our houses in late 2024. So we actually didn't build any new homes last year or the year before last, just because the market was really crappy. So will we build homes again? Absolutely. We've been waiting on interest rates to come down for the market to pick back up and for supply to kind of come down.
Hey, let me pause the episode real quick. Let me know if this sounds like you. You're making six figures, you're climbing the corporate ladder, investing in your 401k and your Roth IRA, and maybe even a brokerage account. But deep down, you're asking yourself, is this really it? Like, am I just going to do this thing for the next 30 years and hope to retire in my 60s? That was exactly us just a few years back. We were curious and excited about real estate, but overwhelmed and without a roadmap. If you fast forward to today, we've built a portfolio of over 80 cash flowing units and grown our net worth to over $2 million. We made it our mission to help busy professionals like you take that same leap and start building generational wealth for yourself and your family. That's exactly why we created the Wealth Juice Inner Circle, a private real estate investing community designed to help you get your first rental property under your belt in as little as 90 days. Inside, you'll get direct access to us, our full investing network, private off-market deals, and our exact playbook, and a community of investors who are closing deals every single week. That first property changed everything for us. We always talk about it. It was the true foundation for building generational wealth. And honestly, if we had access to something like this when we first started, we'd be 10 times further along by now. So if this sounds just like you, click the link in our show notes and schedule a call with me. Yes, me. I'll be taking the calls. We'll go over your goals, map out a plan, and get you ready to close your first deal. Let's get it. Would that be, I mean, to me, I'm just thinking about this logically from the outside looking in, not knowing too much about your business. It seems like the build part would be really hard to compete with the builders, right? Like, I mean, if you're going to build, how many homes can you build being a smaller operation if they're building hundreds of in a community or thousands in a community, right? Is that part of the decision to be like, well, I'm really good at finding these deals and then I can sell them to the builders?
Yeah.
That,
Let me ask you a fun question. What percentage of homes that are built do you think are built by the nationals versus the mom and pop builders?
It's a great question. I feel like I'm going to get this wrong. How would you define I guess national is just any
Publicly traded company on the stock exchange. Lennar, D.R. Horton, Ron Homes, the big boys.
Percentage of homes that are built by national. I would say I might sound like an idiot here. I'm going to say 85%.
So it's 20%.
Oh my God. Okay. I got it completely wrong.
80% of the homes that are built by mom and pop builders, not the big boys.
Wow.
So the smaller guys have the market essentially. So where the big guys really thrive is the entry level housing space. They're the ones who are trying to go out and deliver the, $250,000 townhouse product, right? Because they've got economies of scale. They can produce a lower cost product that, mom and pop guys can't. That's what their market is. And they're very, very good at that. And they have entire teams that are working on how to reduce the number of nails that they're going to use in the construction of the home. Like, they're just really good at that. So there's a market for everybody. They play a very important role. I would say, like, a lot of these big builders get a bad rap, but they're supplying what I would call the most undersupplied, highest demand type of real estate in the country, which is affordable housing, not Section 8 or government housing, but entry-level housing, something that a first-time home buyer can buy, a $2,000 per month mortgage product.
I think it's so important. And we invest in a market in New Hampshire and Vermont that is 10,000 housing units short, and we're hopefully in the next couple of days going to get the 17 unit under contract, and we're going to turn it into 21. And I'm like, wow, we're making we're making an impact on supplying new units. It's like how much can the mom and pops do? That's why I do think they're insanely important to have these builders, because there's a shortage in most markets across the United States. So I totally agree with you. I guess I was basing my answer to that question off of, I grew up in a suburb of Philadelphia, and I watched Toll Brothers literally just put up homes, like, I can't even, thousands and thousands of homes in this area, and I'm thinking, okay, they got to own the market. But it's funny that might not be true. That might just be where I grew up. So I I appreciate you bringing some context to that, and I did not answer that question very well. But I want to get into your what you're doing now is people have come to you and they said, all right, Brandon, like, you've done this for several years. Now you teach people how to do it. And I'm curious how that started for you, because it's one thing to be good at the land entitlement and getting these deals done. It's another thing to create education behind it. And it's similar to kind of what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
I started it because I love the teaching aspect. That's actually like where I get the most fired up. I'm curious on how you created that and why you felt like there was a place in the market to be like, all right, I can teach others how to do what I've been doing.
Yeah. Because we were looking for our own mastermind to join when we first got into doing development, because we saw the value already based on the previous coaching and masterminds that we had paid for and the ROI that was involved in it. You can't put a price on it, right? Like, if you're trying to find your first cash flowing rental, Corey's your guy. Like, don't try to figure this out yourself. You can, and I'm sure you will if you're a smart person, but the amount of money you're going to spend and the mistakes that you make, the headache, the silly things that you didn't have to blow money on, the property that became a nightmare that you didn't have to buy because you didn't have the guidance. Oh my gosh. Our house flipping mastermind that we had joined, that was life changing. I've joined capital raising masterminds on how to raise capital for real estate. I've had mentors that I've paid $2,500 a day. All these things were life changing for us and made me a lot of money. So when we were getting into land development, we were looking for a community of other land developers and people that were teaching it so that we didn't have to go and pioneer this thing. What turns out, there wasn't anybody teaching it. Like, we could not find anybody because I was going to go join. So because of that, we had had a lot of people asking us about it over the years, and we said no, we're not going to do that. But finally, we were like, I really think there's an opportunity to help people and prevent the mistakes that we had happened, because I've made 7-figure mistakes, like $1 million losses on properties with my own rule book that I now, give students, like that whole thing I just told you, don't buy it until you have all the approvals. Well, guess who's bought stuff before all the approval? This guy. Like, I've made the mistakes, and, you're going to work with a lot of vendors. You're going to pay a lot of money to people to do these deals. There's economy of scale. So, there's power in having a community where you've got bulk discount pricing from vendors that, like myself, will go and negotiate on behalf of like all the people in the community. And just getting the coaching and stuff has been completely life-changing, for us and the other areas of our business. And so we saw an opportunity to create something that we didn't see exist. And so that's kind of how it came to be.
Yeah, that's great. Who is this community for? You mentioned this kind of in the beginning, and we were chatting about it pre-recording. It sounds like established real estate entrepreneurs, but like, would you say the person who's flipping 12 homes a year, or the person who has an agent business that's thriving, they're trying to add another layer onto that? Like, how do you know? I guess this is maybe a loaded question a little bit. How do you know if there's a difference between shiny object syndrome and, like, you'd say, no, dude, you should, or woman, whoever it is, you should stay doing what you're doing and you shouldn't add something else on, or no, this makes total sense for you to add another layer, because it sounds like you're already working with established, like, entrepreneurs and people who are, that have not just the money to spend, but the business experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of harped on it. So who it's good for, it's a great way to explain that by telling like who it's not good for. This is not good for people doing their first real estate deal. Like, the land development is not do your first real estate deal. That's not it. It is not for people who have a W-2 job, who can only put in a couple hours a day and do this part-time or whatever. Like, that's not what this is. You need to have, number one, a stable cash flow foundation. So what is that? It is money consistently coming in, because it takes 15 months to get one of these deals done, right? It takes a long, you have to have that cash flow to support it along the way. You're going to spend $15,000 just to get to a preliminary plat approval, probably. Like, you're going to need to do traffic studies, maybe. You might need to do an endangered species report, a geotech report, phase one environmental report, stuff to make sure the land is safe. So it costs some money to look at a deal. And so that's who it's not good for. So if you don't have, 30, 40 grand, liquid to do a deal, then, this is not for you. You're going to need that. Who it's good for are full-time. I'll tell you who's in the group. So we have builders who are great at building homes, but they're not that great at raising capital or understanding how to systemize their business to really grow it. So they're like us. They were chasing those onesie, twosie deals, and they're like, I just want one deal where I can build houses for 3-4 years, right? That's how you grow and scale. It's very hard to scale buying onesie twosie little lot. So we have builders that are looking to grow and expand their new construction business. We have land flippers who are like, they've done some land deals for a couple years. They have this cash flow coming in. They've been successful, and like, the natural next step is they want to do a bigger land deal, right? So we have some of those students, and then we've got like wholesalers and house flippers who, again, have a stable business, but they want to add doing like one of these land entitlement projects per year. So again, this is not shiny object where it's like, stop what you're doing and focus on this. If you're already marketing, add this to your marketing. If you're already reaching out to houses or land to flip, whatever, you can just add this to your marketing, and it becomes another piece of your business. Again, you can make a full-time business out of it if you want to. That's what we do. But it really is a wealth builder, because you only need to do, like, we do 2-3 deals a year. I mean, that's literally it. You don't need to do a ton of these deals. You don't need to have a humongozoid team either. You can literally hire consultants to do everything. Your civil engineer does all the heavy lifting. You can hire a permit expediter, somebody that understands the process, that can walk your deal through with you. You can literally hire all the parts out. Like, you don't even need to build a team, quite frankly. You can do this literally by yourself. You just need to find, you have a way of, getting properties under contract. That's the biggest piece. So if you've got that foundation built, the cash flow and the, expertise doing some type of, real estate deals in the past, then you've got everything that you need to be able to do a big deal.
Cool. Well said. I think I always like to ask people about their future goals with their business. Is 2 to 3 deals a year where you want to stay? Do you want to stay on pace with this so that you can continue to pour more into the education and the coaching and the mentorship? Or do you want to expand, and do you want to grow your land business to do 5 to 6 deals a year? Like, what's that look like for you coming, in the next 3 to 4 years?
Yeah. So right now, we started in single family residential. We started selling big swaths of land to national home builders, and our average deal size, like, the biggest deal we're working on right now, is about 200 units. Smallest deal we ever did was like 30 units. We got started with the smaller stuff. And so what we eventually want to do are do these like master plan communities where it's not just single family, but we've got some commercial mixed in there and some apartments. Like, that's something that it's the same process, quite frankly. There's no difference in getting a commercial piece of land approved and entitled versus getting residential. But doing bigger deals is going to be like the long-term goal, like really, really big master plan communities. I want to start doing deals that have multiple phases involved. So when I go after a deal, like right now, our average deal, like, we're in and out in a year. Like, we do it, we sell it, it's done. I want to start doing deals that take 4 or 5 years, that we develop in phases. So again, I'm looking to build my pipeline where if I'm going to go after a piece of land, I want it to be a 5-year deal, not a 1-year deal.
Very cool. Okay. Yeah, this is a whole world that I'm just so unaware of, and I think I've been around the real estate game for about 8 years, or 7 or 8 years, and it's fascinating to me. So I'd love to stay in touch and hear more about what you're doing, but I want to get to a little bit more of a philosophical question for you, because you came from the medical device world, you tried to start this a course, life coaching. I love coaching too. So I feel like we're similar in that sense. Like it sounds like you're getting back into coaching by having your mastermind. I'm curious on the why behind what you do. The what gets you out of bed every morning? Like what's the thing that fuels you? I don't think I got to ask your age. Are you in your mid 30s like me?
Yeah, man, I'm 35.
35. Okay, me too. I'm 34. So I start to think about things a little bit differently as I hit my 30s. I'm just like, how I love making money. I think that's great. This podcast is about building wealth, but like, how do I make sure that I'm really enjoying my life along the way? And how do I make sure that I'm fulfilled and not just trying to chase money? So I'm curious if you have answers to any of these questions, like the things that you think about the why behind what you're doing.
Yeah, so we can look at the why in like each individual thing because my why in the land development is different than my why in the coaching, but they all ultimately go into feeding like my bigger why, which is to create unique, unforgettable experiences with those that I love. So I'm a big book. There's a book I read that literally described my entire ideology called Die with Zero. I was like, I should have written this book because I was already doing some of the things. And I don't know if you've read that book or not, but
I've heard of the book, but I have not read it. Yeah, I've
yeah,
heard
so
of
the
it.
concept's interesting. It's like die with zero money. In other words, spend all your money before you die. And he does a really, really good job of painting certain cultural beliefs that we hold. And I can go down the rabbit hole in this in a second. And it makes you think like, why do we do that? Like, why do we leave our kids money when we die? Like, if you think about it and you're 80, your kids are in their what, 50s, 60s? They don't need your money. Your money makes a bigger impact when you're younger, right? So the 4 grand I spent when I was 25 going to Europe with my buddies, or 3,500 bucks, I could do the same trip when I'm 80, and I could spend $1 million and charter a private yacht to take me over there and get food cooked for me the whole time. But I'm old. I don't have as much energy. I probably just want to chill at my house, hang out with my wife and my dog, and write my books or something like that. I don't get enough out of it. So money has a greater ROI on experiences when you're younger. And so ultimately what he talks about is you retire on your memories. You retire on your experiences. And the earlier on that you create that memory or that unique experience, it pays dividends through your life. Just like the earlier you buy a stock, the more dividends it pays throughout your life. The earlier you do that experience or create that memory, the further out it goes. So what do I do, Brandon? Brandon, what's your why? What's your framework here? I've been doing an annual brother sister trip. We call it the sibling trip for, I think, 12, 13 years now. And every single year we go on somebody's bucket list. So we just got back from Yosemite National Park. We spent 5 days there. I got to hike Half Dome. That was on like my bucket list. I was so freaking excited about it. The year before that, we did, I think it's, is it Sonoma, Nevada, with like the red rocks and stuff. I forget.
Sedona, yeah,
Yeah, it's a
AZ.
Sedona, not
Yeah,
Sonoma, Sedona. Right. And
yeah.
so every
That's
year,
on my list too. So that's great. Yeah.
dude, so every year we knock out someone's bucket list, and it's usually some kind of national park. I do an annual mom son trip every year. My mom taught history in school for 30 years, never had the money to really travel and visit any of these places. So every year I take her somewhere historic. This year we're going to go to Boston. We're going to do the Freedom Trail. We're going to go see Thomas Jefferson grave and Paul Revere's route. So it can't just be traveling for the traveling. The trip is always themed around what the person I'm doing it with really loves, like what lights them up. My dad, I do an annual father son trip. He likes crypto and he likes bourbon. So we went to a crypto conference in Miami last year. He was so freaking excited. We did the Kentucky Bourbon Trail the year before that, Whiskey Trail in Tennessee the year before that. So I'm obsessed with creating these unforgettable, unique experiences with my friends and my family. I'm already planning my wife's 40th birthday party. So that's my why. That these
Yeah.
businesses are just a tool. Do I love the coaching when I get these texts from students that are like, dude, I just raised $500,000. I'm so freaking excited at 10%. I don't have any monthly payments and I don't have these crazy interests. Do I get excited when they text me and they're like, dude, I just got my first, deal under contract in the city? I love that kind of stuff. That lights me up. I love seeing projects in our land development business come to life. Like it is really cool to take a piece of bare land and create an entire community on it. So, I get that fulfillment in other ways as well. But my main one is to create as many unique, unforgettable experiences with those that I love.
I'm so glad I asked the question because that was such a great answer. The ROI, I've never really heard it put that way. The ROI that you get at spending your money at a younger age is better than the ROI at a later age. And, that is a very difficult thing, I think, in my head to think like the balance between it, right? You plan for the future, but you experience the now, right? That is it's a fine line. It really is. And it's like, but I have never regretted taking a trip. I ever. I don't even. And you think about the money that you spent. It's like, where's that money now? It would have been in an investment account. Like I don't know. I don't even know where it is. So I think, or where it would have been, I guess is what I'm saying. So I love that you said that, and I've talked to my dad about this because he told me, he's like, we're not leaving you anything, and I'm like, and he says it tongue in cheek as like a joke, but he's serious, and I'm like, great, don't. I don't want you to, I want you and mom to go travel and do your thing now and experience this because he's in his late 60s. Like, go do it. They have like a beach house, that I'm like, if that's the only thing that you guys leave us, great. Like, you already have a bunch of equity in it. And I just like, I love that. And also, one thing that I also really like that you said is that it's funny that you're the real estate land development guy and your dad, who I imagine is in his 60s or 70s, is into crypto. It's definitely normally reversed, where the 60 or 7-year-old's into real estate and the 30-year-old is into crypto. So I love that your dad is like, it sounds like he's,
No,
like just
hey,
like
don't get me
young at
wrong. We
heart.
could do a whole podcast on crypto. I'm a big crypto fan. I'm a big believer in it. Like, that's another episode. But yeah, he actually got me into crypto. I actually bought my first Bitcoin back in 2013. So it's kind of funny.
Oh, well, okay. Sounds good. So me and Ryan just bought our first one in 2025. So, because I just started learning about it, but I am also all in on that. I don't have any other crypto besides Bitcoin. So we could have a cool show about that. But I am like, I've learned how to diversify in that way because
Yep.
I'm always so genuinely curious about trends and how things are shifting. And I'm like, I actually had Bitcoin back in 2017. I sold it because I didn't understand it. Now I understand it. And I'm like, wow, I shouldn't have done that. But that's the mistake that you live and you learn. So, dude, this has been awesome. I really appreciate your time and getting to know you and your story. I think that there's a lot of value in the land development. I think that it's something that not a lot of people talk about, hence you starting this community. So I appreciate you bringing it up and I appreciate you sharing all that you're doing. If people want to learn more about you, they want to follow you in your journey and they want to, or maybe potentially like talk to you about what it's like to join your mastermind, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, a couple different ways. So my name is Brandon Cobb, like corn on the cob, and I'm on all the social media channels. But like, there's two main people we serve. The first are people that want to learn how to do what we do. So if you like the idea of turning land into new communities, you can go to learnlanddevelopment.com. We have a free course there. If you want to learn more about the mastermind community, if you like the idea of being a part of other people doing, kind of getting the hand holding through your first deal, there's a video on that website. You can watch it and you can book a call with us, see if you're a fit. And then there's the investors. So there's the people that they just want to invest in this type of stuff and be a passive investor. So if you like the idea of investing in pre-sold contracts with land, then you can go to hbgcapital.net/waitlist. So that's pronounced Harry Bob Gary, hbgcapital.net/waitlist. You can watch a video on our entire investment thesis, how it works, and book a call with us. And then if you want to just educate yourself more, we have a free ebook called 100 Questions Business Owners Ask Before Investing. And so you can grab that at hbgcapital.net. So no wait list, just the hbgcapital.net. And of course, we've got our podcast, Recession Resistant Real Estate Radio.
Love it, man. Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of good land, like entitlement, detailed takeaways for people that are writing stuff down. But if I were to take anything away from this episode, I would tell people to write down that you should take a sibling trip every year or a father, daughter, son, mother, whatever, like, do one of each. Take these trips each year because, yeah, man, I that really resonated with me because I'm just think about passing stuff down. And I think that's a good thing. It's a good strategy to have. Like, I don't think passing something down is a bad thing, but I also think you're so right about it being better spent with an experience when you're young than being handed in a trust. So I appreciate you sharing all that, and thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Before we wrap this show up, I want to leave you with this. If you're listening to the show, chances are you're doing pretty well in your career. You're making maybe six figures. You're putting money into your retirement accounts, maybe stacking some cash in a brokerage account, but you're still waiting for that next level. And here's the truth. Waiting just costs you time. Every month you're on the sidelines is another month you could have had a property paying you and another step closer to financial freedom that you didn't take. Ryan and I know this because we stayed on the sidelines too long. We talk about this sometimes. We had the money, but not the guidance. And once we finally got our first property, everything shifted. It was the catalyst that built our entire portfolio and ultimately gave us freedom. And that's exactly why we built the Wealth Juice Inner Circle, to cut out wasted time, just give you the exact blueprint and surround you with a network of people who are closing deals every single week. So if you're tired of waiting and you're ready to finally get your first deal, click the link in the show notes and schedule a call with me. Let's map out your strategy and get you moving before another year slips by.